Hello and welcome to the TNC Podcast, your go-to Norwich City listen. Norwich City have put back-to-back wins together. They are just 5 points off the playoffs and everything looks
the
great.
Same as it ever has.
Good to see you. Are you well? How are you?
I'm absolutely whangtastic, thank you very much.
Oh, God. Whangtastic.
Whangtastic. I really am. Those mugs are glorious, by the way.
Thank you. They're whangtastic, aren't they?
They really are.
Hurricane Hwang is fully set in Norfolk, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, it was a lovely finish. We'll get onto that though, Jack.
Plenty to get through before we discuss the
Hurricane Hwang.
Hurricane Hwang. It's a busy few weeks for Norwich, actually.
It is.
Do you feel like revitalised and prepared?
No. I feel drained and dismal.
We've just had an international break.
Yeah, we're back-to-back wins as well.
So why are you feeling so down?
I don't know. It's fluffing me up a little bit, but you know, I mean, we'll go on to that performance against QPR shortly, but I'm still not anywhere near where I should be confidence-wise, and I'm sure I'm not alone.
Look, we've got loads of Twitter questions to get through later on in the show as well. I haven't read through them. I always like to go into them without seeing what we've got to look forward to. Not sure if they're going to cheer us up or make us even more down about the football club. Look, a couple of things to get through before we get onto the football.
Yeah.
Few of our sponsors, really exciting things going on at the moment. Butcher Boy. Now, you guys all know about Butcher Boy, a brilliant city centre drinking establishment.
By the way, I walked in. I don't even think I told you this. So I walked in there on a night out a few months back, and it was class.
It's unreal.
I walked in, and there was a guy just like playing like the classic Irish sort of songs.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was just brilliant. Like just playing belter after belter, and there was such a good atmosphere in there. Like legitimately, get yourself to Butcher Boy because the Norwich night out scene is not far off dead. But Butcher Boy, core blimey, that's alive.
It's good. Even pre-match drinks. You know,
yeah,
get
good
in
shout.
There,
Good
get
shout.
a little Guinness.
Actually,
get a Guinness for Shane Duffy.
Yeah.
Get a few of those down. And I tell you what, if you have a few Guinnesses in Butcher Boy, those performances start to look a hell of a lot better. So get down there near Christmas. Look, go and have some fun in there. And also, if we're talking about fun, we've had a delivery from Santa.
Yes, we have.
The lovely people at Lakens have got their Christmas brew out. It's St. Nick's. This stuff is hearty. It's a really beautiful drop. You can get 20% off this. A limited time only, I must say, because we sold out of the lager. Thankfully, they've brewed more, so it's back on stock.
And might I say, Jack actually told me off camera, he was like, "Oh, Chris, by the way, I remember this St. Nick's. I had a hell of a session on this during lockdown. I was conked out after I did the whole thing in one sitting, which is not advisable. No. But what I would say is if Norwich City continue to play as badly as we are, this is a very, very good thing to numb the pain of Norwich City.
I'll tell you what I would do if I were a viewer. I would order a barrel of this or a couple.
Yeah.
I'd invite 2 or 3 friends round.
Yeah.
I'd stick on the 2018-19 season review and just have a good jolly time.
Yeah.
That's what I'd do.
Good shout.
So get some of that.
Yeah, so that's St. Nick's. And I've got a shout out, Jack, as well. We are going to get to the football in a minute. I'm very, very happy
That's fun. What's
to have been in receipt of this Norwich City signed pendant.
That's beautiful.
From this season, thanks to my good friend Elliot Rowe. Elliot won this and he's kindly gifted it to raise funds for the Big C.
Elliot Rowe gave it a go.
He did give it a go, just like Johnny Rowe. All of this season's players have signed this Norwich City pendant. Now, you might be wondering, Core, how do I get my hands on that?
I'm wondering it.
Well, let me tell you, Jack.
Okay.
All you have to do, from the moment this podcast is released, up until the end of December, this is a Christmas special, okay? Anyone that donates anything to our Talk Norwich City Big C fundraising page will be entered into a competition to get your hands on this beauty, to get a Gabriel Sarah signed Norwich City pendant with the rest of those blokes as well. Get involved. You can donate as little as a £5 or as much as 50.
As little as you want.
Absolutely. It's entirely up to you what you want to give, but it's all for people
and we'll draw
affected
it
by cancer.
What, end of December?
End of December.
Okay.
Big C will announce it. So get your hands on that. It's for charity.
Nice little bit of kit, that.
Absolutely.
QPR. Let's start with Norwich 1, QPR 0.
Yes.
Second win in a row.
Yeah.
After the heroics of Cardiff, this was a slightly different game.
Yeah.
Look, let's start by saying a win is good.
Yes, a win is a win.
And we should celebrate wins
Yes.
and be excited about wins.
Yes.
The nature of the performance probably should not be celebrated.
That was turgid.
It was.
I had never, ever thought I would say this on a Talk Norwich City podcast, but I'm about to say it, and I'm going to put it to the viewers as well. Was that the worst Norwich City win of all time? Like, that sounds so bad, doesn't it? Like, we should celebrate a win, but I'm struggling to think over my lifetime of supporting Norwich City whether there was a worse winning performance than that.
I mean, look,
Can you think of one?
Sometimes kind of no, I can't. Sometimes statistics and kind of the eye test are very different.
Yes.
And you can walk away going, that was a great performance, and the numbers don't quite reflect that. This was bad on both parts. I mean, I walked away going, I was slightly intoxicated, so like my recall wasn't great after the game.
I was quite jealous of you.
But
actually.
I was going, I can't remember another shot on target we had. And I was right.
Yeah.
It was the only shot on target.
It wasn't just the St. Nick's.
No.
Look, you speak of statistics.
Yeah.
As always, we go to NCFC numbers for all of our top Norwich City statistics. And this was the one that it did, I have to say, Steve, it didn't put me in a state of depression temporarily. NCFC numbers. Since the start of 2011, Norwich City have only had less than 40% possession in 5 of 159 home championship games. It doesn't stop there, Jack. 3 times when they played with 10 men for more than half the game, once against league-winning Newcastle in 2017, and today against QPR, 37.7 possession.
I mean,
against QPR.
Damning on a few. I read that in 2 different ways. It backed up the thought that it was really poor against QPR, and also impressive that we've dominated so many of our championship home games over that time.
That's a good positive to take.
So if we're putting a spin on it, no, let's be serious with this. It's the Cardiff win was great fun because of the circumstances, and we had 4 minutes of carnage.
Yeah.
Coming from behind is always
Adam Eder, the
huge
hero
amounts
again.
of joy. So I was convinced, having watched that Wagner would be gone, and obviously we've learned over the last couple of weeks that that's not the case. Wagner was still the man in charge for QPR, and although we won, and that's great, and it puts us kind of out of the relegation discussion for a little while longer. So that's good, and we're looking upwards as opposed to downwards now. But this was my concern, was we've got a run of fixtures now. QPR we've played, couple of tricky games coming up. Watford, Bristol City, both away from home. I think Watford are on the up, Bristol City under new management. Preston then come to our place, who are currently in the top 6, and pretty solid. And then Sheffield Wednesday, who we should beat. I mean, they're somehow worse than QPR. But you've got a run of fixtures there where you'll probably pick up, as we've seen with QPR, win that, probably beat Sheffield Wednesday, maybe a couple of points from the other 3. And that probably is just enough to keep Wagner in a job, but it doesn't propel us up the table. Mm-hmm. It just keeps you ticking over. Mm-hmm. That's not where Norwich City should be. Let's look at the game after Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich Town away from home, who have got their own issues, slightly different issues to us. They haven't, I think, won in a few games. Have been in a bit of poor run of form. So this is my concern. This Norwich team aren't improving.
No.
And the real worry for me was what Wagner said to Chris Gore after, and he said we almost need to get less entertaining. Well, it was a low bar anyway. I mean, I wasn't entertained at a lot of Norwich City performances this season. But we're quickly straying very far away from his key principles here.
Oh, mate, they were gone. It seems like a lifetime ago now, right? At the start of the season, when we were playing this positive, proactive football, go get it football. That's history now. That quote, I'll read that exact quote. It wasn't the most entertaining game. Yep, correct, absolutely. But the way they defended was just great. I mean, with all love and respect, David, I think you've gone doolally there.
I couldn't disagree more with that comment.
Because I think we were extremely lucky that we came up against an absolute pub team in QPR, and I'll say this again, they are a pub team. They're a pub team. They are a shambles.
Look better than they did under Gareth Ainsworth.
They're one of the worst teams I've seen at Carrow Road in a decade, really. And the fact that they dominated possession, what does that say about this Norwich City side?
Well, I think you're right, Chris.
They had a glorious chance in the 92nd minute. I think the name's Sam Field, if I'm correct in saying. Glorious chance. All he had to do was hit the target, and that ball is going in. And I don't want to, I want to try and be positive, right? You've got to say brilliant clean sheet, fair play.
First in 8.
But for David, absolutely. But for David to come out and say it was great defending, I think you're clutching at straws.
Yeah, and
I think we invited them on. I mean, it was Chair for QPR, wasn't it? Who, by the way, I thought he was the only player that looked like he didn't belong in that pub team. He was excellent, and actually, there was a few hairy moments, wasn't there, where QPR, if they'd taken their chances, I think they might have had 7 compared to our 1. And they somehow didn't take one of those 7.
I think you're spot on, Chris, and I think you would almost accept to a degree Norwich changing their approach if it meant winning games on a sustainable basis. But the 2 performances we've just seen back to back, Cardiff was frantic and disorganised, and we were still trying to play this proactive style of football. What that means is, yes, you might score a few more, but you just look so shoddy at the back. As you say, I think we were lucky against QPR. They've scored 11 goals in 17 games. They've got Lyndon Dykes up front, who is League 2 level.
Yes.
Very lucky to still be playing in the Championship. And as you say, Chair was kind of their only bright spark. Norwich didn't defend well. We gave up lots of good opportunities in that game.
I agree.
And if you do that against Watford, Bristol City, Preston,
we lose all 3.
You lose all 3.
Yeah.
So it's not even a performance where you can extrapolate it across the next 5 games and go, okay, we've got really solid foundations. Barnes is back. He might nick a few. If you do that against the next 3 teams, you lose, and then you're back to square one. You go, okay, so we can't defend properly. We can't play that style. We look really vulnerable when you're on the front foot.
Yes.
So where are we?
Well, I agree with all that, mate. I'm not surprised in the slightest that David and his coaching staff have set up in that way against QPR. I'm not surprised. And it's a sad indictment of what this Norwich City
Why does it not surprise you?
Because we are an absolute horror show. We are an absolute horror show, Jack. At the back, we are rank. We are awful. And so it doesn't surprise me that we've set up in that way to try to desperately get something against a woeful QPR side. It doesn't surprise me. But my point with that is that, so I'm not necessarily going to, I'm not surprised it is what it is, but this was inevitable. We knew we were going to be that bad against QPR. Anyone with their head screwed on knew we were going to be that bad against QPR. And so if I'm Ben Napper now, and I want to get your opinion on this, Jack, if I'm Ben Napper now, and I'm hearing his comments, early comments in his club media that he did, and the style of football that he says he likes to watch and wants Norwich City to play, is literally the complete opposite to how we set out against QPR. And so if you're Ben Napper, you're scratching your noggin and you're thinking, bloomin' heck, this is not good news. And so yet again, you look at the data, the stats, and all signs point towards we need a fresh change. And as I've said 1,000,001 times, and people have started to give me grief for this on social media, I really respect David Wagner. I really like him. A manager, unlike others with his moral compass still in check, really wants to do his absolute best for this football club. But he just can't get this group of players playing the football that he needs to play. And I actually think it's a perfect time now to make that transition. We've won back-to-back wins. We now go into at least, I wouldn't say Watford I'd take a draw, but Bristol and Preston, I'd love to get a couple of wins there. Just gain momentum before that derby game to get that new manager bounce. For me, it's like the perfect opportunity. And I said this on the scrimmage last week, Jack. Maybe I'm alone in this, I don't know. But I highly suspect that Napper has already made his mind up, and that what he's actually doing is he's finding his replacement. Like, I've no doubt in my mind, because if he's watching this thinking we've got a chance of getting in the playoffs, then I'll be absolutely
stunned. I think you're spot on, and I think the whole sporting director role is something where it's aligned with head coach, and that's why it worked so beautifully between Webber and Farker at the start.
Yep.
They were aligned on recruitment, they were aligned on the way they want to play,
Absolutely.
and everything came together for a couple of seasons and worked really well. What you've got now is a sporting director that wants to play a certain way with a squad profile of a certain age and look. That's far from it, and that's a big fix that needs to happen. And a head coach who is kind of putting his football on life support now. And it does feel like that. It feels like it's, he just wants to come out with his head held relatively high. And I saw a performance against QPR where it was, we just need to win this game at all costs.
Which is completely expected. What was the age stat that you told me about? Connor came out with a stat on social media, didn't he? Connor Sullivan.
Well, and again, NCFC numbers with this.
Right,
so since 1980, and this is probably... It might have been the season of 1980, or Steve's numbers just don't go past or beyond that. But since 1980, Norwich City have never fielded a starting 11 with an average age of over 30 until today. Average age 30 years, 4 months. 8 of today's first 11 were aged 30 or over. Also a record in that period, eclipsing the 7 against David Wagner's Huddersfield in 2016-17.
Okay.
So... Look, one thing is on the pitch we're an older squad, and there are benefits to that.
Yes, I agree.
But I think the way in which we want to play doesn't suit the profile we've got, and might be part of the reason why we're retracting.
Why we've changed, absolutely.
The other concern here is you've got, I would say, 2 sellable assets of significant cash in Johnny Rowe. And Gabriel Sara, who I suspect will probably both not be here this time next season.
What an assist, by the way, for Juan's goal.
So the concern for Norwich will be they're looking at this roster of players. Who do we sell? How do we make revenue? How do we generate cash? Because we know we're in a situation where we kind of have to sell to buy. Well, once you've got rid of those 2, who have you got then?
I mean, that scares me.
And I think the stat was 7 of the 11 players over the age of 30 are contracted past this season. So this isn't going away. This is an ageing squad.
Well, look, I can see the benefits of it, as you say, of having a slightly older
but you need balance.
Team. No, absolutely, mate. What I would say, though, speaking of age, and maybe linked onto what you're about to say, is I want to talk about Ashley Barnes, actually.
Good to see him back.
Absolutely. Great to see him back.
Barnesy's back.
I'm so pleased of that. And I saw... I think Rob Butler put something out on his socials. I think it was post-match maybe about, Ashley Barnes back or something like that. And a lot of Norwich fans were somewhat aggressive in their responses, actually, about his performance. And I felt that was incredibly harsh, actually. I am so pleased that Ashley Barnes is back because of what he brings to this team, not just goals and assists. And I know everyone's like, but that's the role of a striker. But I just feel like Ashley was brought to this club to do so much more than that. And I felt, as dismal and as shockingly poor as that performance was against QPR as a team, Ashley Barnes being on that pitch, for me, brings a different level of mentality. I don't know, this is the eye test. Maybe I've lost the plot as well. Let me know in the comments below. But I think Ashley Barnes on this side brings somewhat of a strength in leadership. You can even see, when we've celebrated goals, he's going to them first. He's the one that's getting them up and running, and he's the one that's organising and leading from the front. And so I thought it was incredibly harsh for Norwich fans to sort of jump on Ashley Barnes and be like, oh, that was a rubbish performance. It was a rubbish performance for all of them. But, the bloke's just come back from injury. I mean, come on, let's give him a break. I have no doubt that over this next sort of 3 games, Ashley Barnes will be putting the ball in the back of the net. I really do believe that. I just felt it was a little bit harsh, Jack.
No, I agree. Look, it wasn't his finest performance, as you say. It's his first game in a good few months. Also, wasn't really in his preferred position. It was basically playing in the 10 behind Hwang. So in terms of goal-scoring opportunities, it's going to be less. And I mean, even Hwang didn't have a huge amount of chances with the way we played. So I think having an Ashley Barnes fit is a help.
And I know that the Twitter tacticos will hate this, but I don't care. It's just what I'm like as a football fan. I loved seeing the dark arts back on the pitch. I loved the rugby tackle at the end of the game. I loved it. I loved the fact that the QPR bloke got up and Ashley Barnes just grinned in his face. Good. Because we've been nice to Norwich City for far too long, and when we're nice to Norwich City, we get trampled all over. And I know that doesn't constitute a quote-unquote good performance, but that is an element of Ashley Barnes and his game that Norwich fans do actually need to value.
And I think it's telling, Chris, that the first possible opportunity to get Barnes back in, he's in for the full 90.
Yeah.
Like, Wagner clearly rates him
I think
highly and think he's an important part of this squad.
And honestly, Jack, I'd go as far as saying this. If you substituted Ashley Barnes in that game, we concede. I've no doubt. I've absolutely no doubt. He is integral to the way that this Norwich City team performed.
Let's have a word on the goal. Hwang with his second goal for Norwich City. The other one was a nice finish away at Sunderland.
Yeah.
The only chance of the game, and took it really well. It was a beautiful ball from Sarah. And I think the thing that's... Look, I've not been overly impressed with Hwang's Norwich career so far. I don't think the style that Wagner plays particularly suits him. But what I have been impressed with Hwang is his work rate. I don't think that can be criticised. And his movement off the ball, I think. There have been runs where I've got, like, he knows what he's doing here. And I thought the run on Saturday, again, it has to be picked out. And what a pass from Sarah, his sixth assist of the season. But it's a lovely takedown, and it's a really clever finish. So fair play to Hwang. And I think, would I have backed Adam Eder to take that chance? Probably not.
Well, look, I'll hold my hands up. I probably called it wrong. I obviously didn't put it on social media, but I'll own it. I was furious that David went with Hwang over Adam. I just think Adam Eder is a better all-round player. But I need to praise Hwang because at the start, I think rightly criticised, definitely unfit, without a doubt, was unfit. Has now got himself up to match fitness, fantastic. Is now contributing, with a goal as well, which is absolutely brilliant. It was a lovely finish, Jack. It's so difficult. The way he brought that ball down and then slotted it home, a hell of a lot of bloody pressure on that, by the way, considering the lack of chances we're creating at the moment. I have to give him credit, and I want to give him credit as well. It was brilliant to see Hwang take his chance, and I hope that he continues to deliver and take those chances, because Norwich aren't creating a lot of chances at the moment, so we need strikers that can be clinical. And you could argue that is what Hwang is being.
Where does it leave us now? A couple of wins, like, feel-good factor is back to it to a degree. At least it's nice to kind of...
Well, it's not, is it? No, it's not. It's not.
It's nice to win football matches.
Correct.
But where does it leave us? Because, I don't know what's going on now in regard to Wagner. I sort of pinned my colours fairly firmly that I thought he was gone post-Cardiff, irrespective of the results.
Yeah.
That's clearly not being the case. Let's say... what are we, 3 weeks from the Ipswich game now?
Yes.
Will he be in charge for that?
Do you know, Jack? I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think he deserves to be? If you were Ben,
I don't think. I don't think he deserves to be with the record that he's had. I have to always provide the context here because it is important, particularly because I'm getting grief for it at the moment. That David has got a bit of a dodgy pack of cards here. Well, that's I know that his in-game management has been questionable over that run of particularly poor form before these back-to-back wins. I know that the lineups have been questionable. I totally get that, but we have to remember the players that he's got at his
That
disposal.
is the argument. The argument of not sacking him is that people say that it's probably an average squad and they deserve to be around the table.
And of course, the injuries. I still don't think that excuses the way that we've defended. It doesn't excuse the mentality. It doesn't excuse the lineups, the in-game management, the way the teams have continued to come out after half-time and concede pretty quickly after half-time. God knows what's being said in that changing room. It's been a complete failure. But I think, but my gut says he will be the manager for the Ipswich game, which concerns me hugely. And I said this on social media, and I think people thought it was bait. And I promise you, I'm telling the truth and nothing but the truth. If Norwich City manage to win this derby match at Portaloo Road, it will be the most funny win ever, because they should absolutely trample all over us. They really should. Our defence. By the way, random one. No one's talking about this. I'm disappointed for Jaden Warner that he didn't keep his place. I don't know why. I don't understand why Duffy got his place back.
Well, I mean, the argument would be that Warner's, last couple of games, they've conceded a fair few goals, and Duffy comes in. But
he's not been at fault for any of those goals, as far as I remember.
I think it's not just a Warner thing. I think Wagner's gone here. We just need old heads in.
Maybe, mate. Maybe. I'm just disappointed for Jane Warner because I think he's a top player already, and I know that, particularly in training, the boy is looking absolutely fantastic. And I really, really hope he gets given more of a chance. And by the way, speaking of players that deserve more of a chance, here's one. Borja Sainz. I mean, bloomin' heck. That just, to me, makes no sense. I mean, I can't believe the lack of game time he's getting.
I think that the Sainz thing comes into a bigger conversation here around just how unbalanced this squad is. We've got so many wingers. Yeah. We've got no defensive midfielder. We've got no real number 10. Sainz might be that player, but he'd probably prefer to be out wide.
Well, the DM we have got is Kenny. You have to say that.
I don't think he's a defensive midfielder.
Well, look, I think he's always looked better in those forward positions. But what I would say, to then contradict what I've just said, is he has been one of our most consistent performers this season.
Look, I know there's plenty of questions around Sainz on Twitter, so let's get into that now.
Let's do it.
As always, a massive thank you for your questions on Twitter. If you want to get in touch in future weeks, just drop us a follow on there and send us a line.
And do it, yeah. Go on.
Let's start with Christine Dye. Christine, thanks so much for getting in touch. She says, do you think Danny Bart's has done enough to secure his place in the starting 11? Well, you've mentioned Jayden Warner. Danny Bart, we had Kyle Lafferty syndrome over him. Players always get better when they're not being played, it seems. Look, I don't think Danny Bart's necessarily done anything wrong.
Yes.
But I think the tests that he has had so far have been fairly basic. I think all of our defenders, Gibson, Duffy, Bart, are of a similar profile. Mm-hmm. Players that can sit deep and head the ball away. I think they're all quite capable of doing that, as you should be as a championship centre-back. I think it gets more difficult, and I don't think he had this test on Saturday against QPR because he had Lyndon Dykes to defend. If you get a nippy little Watford forward against you who's trying to peel off the shoulder, I think that's when he starts to struggle. I think it would be unfair of me to say that he can't do that because we haven't really seen it. I think we saw a little bit against Cardiff, and I think on the whole he probably failed that assignment. But I don't think. I just think I think he's average.
Well, I'm going to jump to his defence thing because I think it's incredibly harsh.
Sure.
Because we have to remember that he's barely played. He's barely played, mate.
Have you seen?
We must provide that context as always. We've signed Sunderland's Player of the Season last season, and
there's a reason they let go of him.
Okay, all right, but Sunderland won more games than they lost. They look like a tidy outfit back in the Championship, and so I think that's. I don't agree with that. To answer Christine's question, I do think he's done enough to keep himself in the side. Although I do think he's helped by the fact that the other defenders have been so poor. I just think if you'd have had Gibson in there, Duffy was in there. I mean, I think they're all just very similar players. I think the only differentiator is I think Gibson is a better passer of the ball than those two centre backs.
That's fair.
But I think Danny Bart's done enough.
I think he's a player who you know what you're getting from. I think we'll put in regular kind of 6, 7 out of 10s. Whether he is the defender to progress Norwich City forwards is another matter. And I think this comes back to the way in which we're playing football now. I think Wagner's probably looked at this squad and gone, I don't know if I've got the tools here in certain areas to play this.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that's why he's changed, and I agree. John Garland.
Hello, John.
Hello, John. Let's read John's profile.
John's a very clever man.
By the way, Professor of Criminology.
We've seen some crimes at Carrow Road this season.
Crimes against football against QPR. He says, first home game I've been to in a while, was so shocked by how poor we were and how detached the crowd were. Not angry, not even annoyed, just not bothered. And I have to agree, John, like it is at apathy stage. It is, isn't it, Jack?
It is, and I think this is a really good point, actually, John. And you're right, I think the atmosphere is muted, and I think it's a fairly obvious reason why. I don't know what I'm getting behind. I'm going to watch a Norwich City team. I don't know the way they're going to play. I don't know who the person, in 6 months' time will be that's leading us forwards. There's not much to there's no identity to get behind. There's not a greater thing to believe in here. And I think we've had that under previous managers, and I don't think we do under Wagner. I think there were moments of it at the start of this season where you felt like something was maybe building. I just think we're at a stage now where we're mid-table. I don't think we're going to be too far off where we are now come the end of the season. We've got a manager who we probably know won't be here at the end of this season. We've got a new sporting director who hasn't really told us too many plans, and that's nothing against him because he needs time to bed in.
Yes.
We're just in a period of meh, like and a team where you go, cool. Even Rowe wasn't playing on Saturday, which I don't think's been noted. I think we really missed him.
Yeah, I agree with
that.
that.
You just go.
And do you know what, Jack? Yeah, but do you know what, Jack? Norwich City can't afford.
No.
Because we are in a murky financial situation, and what is coming up?
Season ticket renewals.
And I tell you what, there's going to be a substantial drop-off in season ticket renewals. And I know that people will renew. And as always, I'd like to say, fair play. You know, the Norwich fans, some of the most loyal supporters in the land, genuinely, not just saying it. Take my yellow and green glasses off. You know, we were selling out the stadium in League One, unlike the blue and white binners down the road. And we will continue to renew our season tickets. But I do just get a strong sentiment. The fans have truly had enough of watching this turgid football. You know, and I do think that if we go into that season ticket renewal period of meh, aka we've still got David Wagner, we're not hearing much from Ben in terms of the future. What I would say is maybe we'll hear something at the next AGM from the Atanasios, which will perhaps lift the spirits somewhat and give Norwich fans some hope to cling on to.
I think you're right, Chris, because I think if you look at the last couple of renewals, you had, so off the back of a disappointing Premier League campaign, but historically we've been really good at bouncing back. We don't bounce back, but we've got a man in Wagner who we're kind of pinning hope onto. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work. And now you're coming up to a season renewal where financial... the financial situation in this country is really difficult, and people are looking to cut back where they can.
Yeah.
Well, the season ticket is going to be most of the first to go because it's not cheap.
And what? No, not cheap.
£600 a year.
No, let's make it clear. It's the most expensive, one of the most expensive tickets in the Championship, isn't it? If not the most expensive. I actually think it's more expensive than some of those Premier League clubs as well. If I'm right in saying, correct me if I'm wrong. So, look, the club need to pull their finger out. They cannot continue to afford this meh feeling to continue on.
But I think we need to refine our identity, and these are all big like this. These aren't easy fixes. We need to find an identity. We need a squad that we believe in and can see a future in. All I'm seeing at the moment is kind of older players coming to the end of their career. A couple of them probably looking for a last paycheck. I don't know. I just don't think we're good enough.
And maybe you're being harsh. So if you are being harsh, then let's get a gaffer in that can actually get these boys playing as a cohesive unit. I want to change the tact here. Matt S. at Timu Pookie Baby is his handle. Well done for getting that handle. They say, if Hwang carries on scoring and Sargent will be back to full fitness, who is likely to start up front? Or will Wagner go to 2 up front? Hypothetically speaking, if he will still be manager, but can't see him in charge after the January transfer window. So I think effectively what Matt is saying is if Hwang continues scoring, is he going to keep his place in the team, or will Sarge come straight back in?
I think Sargent comes straight back in. I think he's a far better player than Hwang.
Look,
I think with Hwang, certainly over the last couple of games, he's looked brighter.
Yes.
And I think whether he's third or fourth choice striker, I think he's a good option to have there. But I think that's what he is. I think the best Norwich have played this season, and in general, is when you've had Barnes and Sargent in there. I think both of them go in above Ida. Mm-hmm. So, you've probably got Ida as third choice, and then I'd probably say Hwang as fourth choice. We've also got to look here in terms of building forwards. Hwang's not going to be here next season. He might not even be here after January.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Sure.
So to play Hwang ahead of those guys would be silly. He's certainly... I think you need to look at the system as well, and Sargent suits the system I don't even know what we're trying to play, but what we were trying to play, Sargent suited better. So I think Sargent comes straight back in, as with Barnes, and I think we will look a better team when Sarge is in here.
Let's stay on Hurricane Hwang. We've got a rave statement come in from Joseph, and he says, If I've said it before and I'll say it again, if Hwang gets good service, he will score goals. He's a very good finisher and a very good striker at this level. Very composed and very experienced. I think he could be big for us. Also,
Is this his agent?
he always gives 100%. Great work ethic. Well, Joseph is clearly on the Hwang-tastic train.
I disagree with lots of that. I don't think he's a particularly great finisher. I think his work rate's been fine.
Well, we did see one in that QPR game, which was probably on par with Onel's attempted Onel's attempted volley from the corner. Bless your heart. I mean, it was a howler, and Hwang had a howler as well, where it almost went out into Riverside Retail car park, didn't it? I mean, bloomin' heck.
Look, I think let's not get too overboard here with Hwang. He scored 2 goals in 10 plus games.
He's an all right player at this level.
Yeah, he's okay.
But
he's a good player to bring off the bench at 80 minutes when you're hopefully 2-0 up. I don't think he's anything more than that. And I think if he was as good a player as he was there, we wouldn't have lost as many games as we have done this season. He's fine. I'm certainly not getting excited about him. I don't think any kid wants to grow up and be Hwang when they're shooting in the playground. Put it that way.
Maybe we've not had enough of this in this podcast. Chris Whitting,
Great
32. Name. He's from Wharton in England, and he says, statement: outplayed against the team's second bottom. We were so poor. Good goal and through ball. Other than that, shocking. Barnes is so underrated. Great finish from Hwang, but Ida has to start in front of him. Our play is far too slow. When we play fast, teams can't deal with us. Look, I think, there's lots of statements within that one statement, Chris, you cheeky bugger. What's your reaction to that?
I don't feel as sorry for Ida as some people do. I don't think he's necessarily done anything to guarantee a starting place above Hwang. I think he's been fine. But he's also, I think, missed opportunities in terms of... He's been given a lot of opportunity. I think I saw he's played 100 games for Norwich.
Yeah.
And what's he scored? 10 goals? I know a lot of them have come off the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. And little tiny 1 minute cameos. Nobody
should be guaranteed a starting place. And I don't think Ida's justified that.
But he should have had a loan. I'm going on about something. I'm gonna actually defend Adam.
We can't say he got the team wrong when the striker he started scored our only chance of the game.
I will defend Adam Ida here. I am actually with Chris. I think Adam Ida needs to be starting. Adam Ida's numbers, despite all the naysayers, look at Adam Ida's numbers this season and then come back to me. Okay, minutes played, goals scored. He's one of the best. He's up there.
I think we're being far too sentimental about him.
Right, okay, fine. We'll agree to disagree. Let us know in the comments where you stand on Adam Ida versus Hwang.
Because it could have quite easily gone on Saturday. He starts ahead of Hwang. He misses his chance, and you're going, another game goes begging.
What about this from the Earlham Review?
I don't know.
I find it remarkable how badly a team can play and yet still win a game in the Championship.
Well,
see, this is it, Jack. And you said at the start of the podcast, and I actually posted this during the game, and people didn't like that for some reason. I just like to try and grab a positive whilst I can. Please just allow me to do that. We were at one point during that game 3 points off the playoffs, right? And look, people don't want to talk about that, but it does just show yet again how shit, and let's not say average, how shit this league is. How have we gone on that run and yet we are still only, I think we're 5 points off now.
No, you're spot on, Chris.
It's crazy, isn't it?
You're spot on.
I think the Earlham Review has got a great point.
Yeah, you're spot on.
How have we won that game?
I think you've got a side in Leicester who are probably still Premier League quality.
Oh, 100%.
You've got a pack of 3 behind them in Ipswich, Leeds and Southampton who are better than the rest, but even still not incredible.
Okay.
And then you've got, Hull and Preston up near, in the top 6.
Yeah.
West Brom.
Yeah.
Not elite sides, and I think Norwich should be looking at this being incredibly thankful that they're still within touching distance. It leads on nicely, Chris, to Willomots.
Yes, up the Willomots.
And we know that Weeds...
Thanks for cutting my grass.
We know that Weeds will always outgrow grass.
Yeah.
We also know that Willomots has a great question. He says, thanks for the 6 points, David, but 5 points away from the playoffs is a perfect time to change
we've said that
backroom staff. We've got the players. Let's get the right man to sort it out at Colney and get to Wembley. I think it's a great point.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And that's why I thought post Cardiff. Great time to get rid. Goes out on a somewhat of a high, having just won. You've got a nice break to bed in your tactics, and you've got a run of fixtures now, from now until the new year, where you could get a real run of form going.
So, speaking of that, we've got a question in from Tance.
Legend.
Hello, Tance, nice to see you.
Danny Tanti.
Says, how many points do we get in the next 5? What is acceptable? Would you take a lower amount if we won the derby? Interesting. Do you know, Tance?
How low are we going?
That's quite naughty, actually. But I have to admit, I'm at the place now in this season where I would take a lower amount if it meant that we won the derby, because as I've said, it would be the most hilarious win against the scum ever.
Well, and it's something to hold on to. I mean, it's unlikely we're going to get into the playoffs, so to have that little nugget of winning at Portman Road would be lovely.
Yes, and so, Jack, how many points are we going to get? And let's start to talk about it in the next 5. So obviously we've got Watford tomorrow night. By the way, there's a TNC watch along,
Yes.
so make sure you tune in to endure the misery of what will be Watford away with us. It will be fun and games as always. Watford away.
I'd love a point, but I think we lose.
I'd bite your hand off, and I would totally agree. Bristol away.
Same. I'd love a point, think we lose.
Really?
Under new management in Manning, I think that.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, he's quite highly rated, isn't he?
And I think, look, I don't know what
You
performance.
think you think we lose that game as well?
Yeah, I do. I think if we're going off of the Cardiff and the QPR
I
game,
know, and I know, and annoyingly, you're right. I want to argue with you, but you're right. Preston at home.
this is an interesting one.
Preston were flying at the start of the season,
And they're still in the top 6.
but they just recently lost to Cardiff at home. It was a last minute winner, wasn't it, in the 98th minute?
Who
or
we
something like
nearly
that.
lost to.
Yeah, very true. I don't know. I kind of fancy a draw against Preston, maybe.
Well, I mean, again, you famously say, how low have your standards slipped? How low have your standards slipped? The fact that you love a point against Preston at home.
No. Right. I wouldn't love a point against Preston at home, but it does say how
that all
far
we're
we've
capable of?
fallen that
Yeah.
I believe that that's all we're capable of. And then, Sheffield Wednesday at home.
We have to beat
I
them.
mean,
they
I've
scored
said-
8 goals in 17 games.
I've said that QPR are a pub team, right? If QPR are a pub team, then Sheffield Wednesday are like a vet's outfit.
We could be looking at one of the worst teams in Championship history in Sheffield Wednesday.
Seriously?
We have to be.
Do you mean that?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I love that.
Have to beat Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay, and so we've then got Sheffield Wednesday as a warm-up to the derby, which is after that.
Chris, it does really concern me because, look, if I'm going off of performances of the last 2 months,
Yes.
we win just one game in our next few leading into Ipswich.
Okay.
And
Which is
that's not a good
Sheffield
place to
Wednesday
be.
at home. Oh,
So
God, no.
what I'm saying is it shouldn't be we maybe should. We have to change head coach.
Okay.
We are at a point of the season of real make or break.
It's interesting.
Of real make or break. You either commit to our endeavour of playoff football, which is what the board said we were capable of at the start of this season, or we accept mediocrity. The choice is with you. This is only going in one direction with David Wagner. It's up to the club. Do they want a chance of playoffs, or are they happy to settle for 13th? It's up to them.
Or maybe they're not happy, but they just can't afford to change it. Who knows? Speaking of mediocrity, an interesting question from Ben, who says, would you have welcomed 5 points off the playoffs and 13th at the start of the season? Now, this is a naughty question, Ben, because a lot of us were saying that we were in big trouble. You especially were saying we're in big trouble.
I would say if we're putting a par on this season, I think 13th is probably about par for Norwich. I think if they finish 13th, it's probably where a lot of people would have expected us to finish. I'd say we probably are where we deserve to be. We had a nice start. It tailed off. We've won the last couple.
So would you have taken where we are now? See, for me, I think you have to provide that context of what we've seen and how we've seen it. And I know where you're going, Ben. You probably would say, yeah, it's all right. It is all right. So maybe Norwich fans are being a bit too negative. Maybe. I don't know.
I think that the interesting thing around this is we could be 13th and 5 points off the playoff, but you can feel something building.
Something's happening.
And that's okay. And you would accept that.
But what you can
Nothing's
feel...
building here. We basically, we've moved into a 1960s house. It has the potential to be really cool.
But we haven't got the money to
We haven't got the money, and it's slowly just kind of disintegrating around us.
And
there's moles starting to come into the ceiling.
And there's lots of land, but the land's sort of rotting away, and
the grass is, we need Willamotson. We can't afford him.
What about this? I'm gonna inject out of nowhere a positive
It's going to need to be a strong dose
from Matt Gregory, who says, "Statement: haven't lost or conceded since Ben Napper took over as sporting director." Well, there we go.
That's
Cling
true.
on to it. Cling on to it.
That's true.
It's going to change against Watford, let me tell you. But I'll take that positivity, Matt, and thank you for providing that. Really appreciate it. Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's Finn Brown, and I think this is an interesting one. There's been a few people get in touch saying they haven't been to loads of games this season, but they are at QPR.
Okay.
Finn says, I don't regularly go to games, usually can only get to 4 or 5 a season, but I couldn't believe just how much the atmosphere at the ground had fell off since I last went a couple of months back.
Terrible.
I was watching with a neutral who's a friend from uni and felt a bit embarrassed. This is...
Well, it is embarrassing.
This is important because we're there, we're season ticket holders, and I think the decline of stuff feels more bearable when you're seeing it over time. It's more gradual. When you're only going to a few games a season, it's a lot more stark in terms of the drop-off. And Finn, and we had John earlier saying, this really isn't a quick turnaround. We've talked about the ageing squad. That's not changing anytime soon.
Yes.
We've talked about the way in which we're playing football. That could potentially change, but it's not going to be quick. We've talked about the finances. That's not quick. But we do need to start trying to make this change. And I think Ben Napper wants to do that.
Of course he does.
And whether
that's not a thing. Of course he wants to.
He wants to change it. So let's see it.
Yeah.
Let's start to see it now. We've heard it. But actions speak louder than words.
For sure.
We need to start seeing change.
Yeah,
and everyone will say, sacking Wagner isn't the silver bullet. It's not.
No,
it's not going to change everything.
Let's just have a quick pause there, Jack.
Yeah.
We must emphasise this strongly because
Yeah.
I think people have started to say, TNC want another manager sacked, yada yada yada. As we always like to say, this isn't just a sack David Wagner and it all changes. We have to remember that it's not just David. The coaching staff as a collective contribute to how this team performs. So it's not just on David in that respect. Of course, the players need to take a lot of the blame and responsibility for how shocking we've been this season. Of course, the board need to take the blame for letting this club get to the point that they've got to. Of course, Stuart Webber, who hung his tie up, so to speak, earlier on the year and hung about for the time that he did. He should take some responsibility and blame. So let's make it clear, Jack. We're not saying sack David and the tide instantly turns. But what we are saying is that we believe at this stage that fresh ideas, fresh impetus, fresh energy with new coaching staff could maybe get the car out of gear 2 into gear 4. It could.
And then things start to snowball from there. Couple more wins, couple more exciting performances.
Absolutely.
Atanasio start to come in and have a bit more influence, maybe a bit more cash.
Yeah.
Might convince the likes of John Rose to stay for another season.
Let me feed you a wet dream.
Wow.
Right? Imagine we get a new gaffer in.
Yeah.
Before the derby. We'll beat Sheffield Wednesday, obviously, because they're an absolute car crash. But seriously, if we don't beat Sheffield Wednesday, sack a lot of them, all of them. I mean, everyone, clear the whole club out. I mean that. Honestly, they're so bad.
That's still a way off, yeah.
But my point is, here's the wet dream. Okay. Imagine when a new gaffer comes in. Yeah. We tonk Wednesday. Yeah. Whoever he or she rocks up at the presser before Ipswich, gives it large. Yeah. We somehow beat Ipswich at Portaloo Road with a new gaffer. 2 wins back to back. Yeah.
What's happened previous to Sheffield Wednesday?
Just ignore that, okay? Imagine the feeling at this football club. If you tonk Wednesday, somehow beat the scum at Portaloo Road, despite all of the circumstances as things stand.
Then it's
new
Christmas.
Gaffer. Yeah? Merry fucking Christmas. Merry fucking Christmas. Do you know what, mate? I'll be drowning myself in this St. Nick's.
Yeah.
No, but let's talk about it. Let's have some hope.
But do you see that happening?
Imagine if the club make that decision and get a new gaffer in, and we get a new gaffer bounce. Imagine a gaffer going up to the fans at Porto Road, actually pounding his chest, and then the fans all over that dodgy shanty of a roof they've got at Porto Road. Imagine. But the club can make that happen. Wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up and make it happen. Yeah. Because this season isn't over. It's not fucking over. Okay? But you've got to make a change sooner rather than later. And who knows? Who knows? As turgid as it's been, beat Wednesday, somehow get a new manager bounce against Ipswich at Porto Road. The game could change.
That's got blood flowing to parts of my body I didn't know existed.
And I need to make this clear. It's not going to happen. It's a complete wet pipe dream, right?
You keep referring to the season from Sheffield Wednesday onwards. What about the 3 games before that?
Well, if we keep Wagner, then it is just going to be what we've seen against QPR, isn't it? We're going to continue to set up in the same way.
Yeah.
We're going to concede goals big time because QPR, I mean, talk about scoring in a brothel. I mean, my God.
You're right, though, that they do have the ability to at least try and change this. Look, we could sack Wagner, we could bring someone in and nothing could change. Yeah. But at least you've tried. Yeah. Because at the moment, all I'm seeing is damage limitation. Let's keep this on life support for a bit longer. But we know what's happening. We
do. What I will do, though, so just out of attempted balance, we should give them all credit for managing away and home, back-to-back wins. Like, we do have to give them credit. We do have to give them credit for that, Jack.
Okay. Right. Let's
come on. Cheer up.
Let's look ahead to this week. Then it's a really busy month.
We're in big trouble.
You know, end of November into December, it's going to be frantic.
Yeah.
Starting 11, I'm interested with going into Watford and Bristol City. Do you change anything?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do.
What do you do?
I want to see. Despite Hwang playing as well as he is, I want to see Adam Eder start.
Okay.
I do. People will disagree with me, but I do think he warrants a start. I want to see Jaden Warner back in over Duffy.
Okay.
I do.
I think that's fair.
People will criticise me for that, but that's just my honest opinion. I want to see Jaden Warner in that team and getting games.
Okay.
I think it's important. I think he's more than capable. If I see PP at left back again, I am genuinely very close to not renewing my season ticket. It's a joke.
Well, that didn't happen last game.
But thank God.
Yeah.
We cannot see that again. I can't see it. Literally. In fact, if that's the lineup against Watford, I might not take part in the watch along. Seriously. I want to see Borja
one of these and
I want to see Borja Signs start a game as well.
They would be the 3 I would change as well.
It's very interesting to me as to whether he starts out on the wing or whether he plays in that number 10 role. He is a winger, not a number 10. I think there's a bit of misunderstanding with that within the Yellow Army. So perhaps he should start over O'Neill. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe O'Neill comes in off the bench to be the powerhouse that he is. Because the last person you want making all of those runs against you is Onel Hernandez off the bench. So maybe that's where we do it. Or maybe Borja starts the other side, maybe. I don't know. Just I would like to see him have a start. I would. But critically, we have to win by hook or by crook. Against Watford, it's going to be an early Christmas miracle. They look like a really tidy outfit, and I worry against us.
I agree. I think a few changes that Warner comes in for me. I agree. I think Duffy against the Watford attack scares me.
Yes.
Let's throw this into the mix.
Go on.
No Hwang or no Eder. Mm-hmm. Barnes in the 9.
Okay.
Sainz in the 10.
I mean, it turns me on.
And then you can either bring in Poeta for Hernandez or you leave it with Fastnacht and Hernandez.
Yeah, I like it. I'm all right with it.
Let's see that.
I'm all right with that. I'm okay with that. Yeah, maybe that's it. I mean, who knows? I mean, at this point, as you say, Jack, I mean, I liked your analogy earlier on. It is a case of
we've bought
this team are on life support now. It's just whatever we do. It's just prolonging the inevitable, isn't it? So
busy week.
Let's pray for some points.
An important week, and I think we'll be on this Monday next Monday. Be on this podcast next Monday. a lot could have changed,
Yeah.
or we could just be in the same situation. We've scraped the point from a possible 6.
Put it this way.
Wagner's still in charge.
Yes.
We've had a couple of dross performances. Or we've got a different manager. Or we've won them both.
If we've won them... Right, let's put this in the room. No, go on. Let's play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Let's put this in the room.
Yeah.
If we win the next 2, Watford away and Bristol away... Has David got a case to stay at this football club as manager, Jack?
Well, I think he would.
Because he's then won 4 in a row.
I think he would have a case. I don't think it happens. But what we would have to see an improvement in performances.
Of course,
I think that's the key thing. We need something to believe in.
Yeah.
Because I am not watching Norwich City
have 1 shot on target. Do you know, mate?
And that's also just not sustainable.
Oh no, I know. But take away all that. Let's talk about the feeling and those that endured, and it was endured. I think that I got home after that QPR game. Took off my scarf, hung it up,
defrosted,
went like this. I slouched on the sofa.
Yeah.
I thought that wasn't worth it. I went out today and I saw 1 shot on target. 1 shot. 1 shot. 1 against QPR. That's a disgrace. We have to see an improvement in performances.
I mean, the flip side of that, and look, we could keep going around in circles. You've said very often on this podcast that you just want to see results, and I guess we saw that.
And do you know what? I've learned something, Jack. I've learned.
You don't
something.
want that.
No. I'm okay. I actually thought I was all right with that, and I am, but not that bad.
Yeah.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
You know, just win was something I'd like to say, but we can't just win like that.
Yeah.
No, I can't put myself through that anymore.
Look, it's going to be a fascinating week or so. It feels like we've just lost 2 in a row as opposed to 1 2 in a row.
I don't know about that.
But the way that we've spoken on this podcast,
maybe.
feels like.
But we're just frustrated.
We are.
I'm sure people agree with us. Don't forget to buy St. Nick's for your Christmas stockings.
Your discount code is in the description as well as the link.
Don't forget that we have got a Norwich City pendant available to win. If you donate to our TNC Big C page, you can
Links
donate
in the
as little as
description.
£5 or as much as £50.
Or a quid.
And being with the chance of winning a Norwich City signed pendant from this season. And also, we've got the watch along. If you're watching this after Tuesday, apologies. We've got the Norwich City watch along on Tuesday night. Looking forward to that.
Live at 7:45.
And we've got something else up for grabs coming soon.
Oh, excited.
Coming soon.
The next Norwich City home game as well, or just Christmas parties in general, get into the Butcher Boy.
Yes, do that.
Chris, good to see you.
Yeah, ish.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm feeling fantastic.
See you, everyone. Bye-bye.